Though,
Yeah.
unfortunately, two careers recently ended in the wrestling world. Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt both passed away. It seemed so close to each other. In the wrestling world, Terry Funk to me will always go down as, for me, when I introduced to him, he was Chainsaw Charlie. And that was my introduction to him, and I love Chainsaw Charlie. But then when you go back and you watch all these other Terry Funk matches with Ric Flair and so on and so forth, Mick Foley, you're like, dude, like this guy influenced so many people after him. But Bray Wyatt, same exact way. His promos, his demeanor, his attitude, everything about him. Like, do you have any Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt stories? Because I would appreciate hearing them. Because right now, I think a lot of people just are going through like a transition of like, is this real?
Yeah. No, it is a tremendously sad week. Um, and Terry Funk, obviously a legend and just a true dynamic presence. I my fan experience with Terry Funk was before Chainsaw Charlie, because I caught him at Nassau Coliseum, back when he had first entered WWF and was doing the whole thing with the branding iron, I
Oh
think.
yeah.
And either the ring announcer had put on his hat and he attacked the ring announcer in a battle royal, and it was like, and maybe it was with him and JYD, I don't remember, but it was like something where they both won the battle royal, so they're going to share it. And then he went nuts and started attacking everybody, and it was just like a real, in a gimmick, in a very gimmick filled world of 80s WWF at the time. He stood out as, well, this guy is really real and dangerous.
Yeah,
To me,
yeah.
your old fan watching, like, I don't know, this isn't like, yeah, I think he's actually in. I don't think he has a line. I think he actually is in the Land of a Thousand Dances music video. If you look carefully, just like doing the thing and clapping, but he is an entity all to his own. Obviously, when you get older, when I got older and started knowing more about the history of the business, and tracking, like, oh my God, he wasn't the guy with the branding iron from WWF. He's just like, he's this unbelievable legend. And
Yeah.
I didn't really, from a working standpoint, I never really, I got to meet him at the ECW, one of the ECW/WWE pay-per-views.
Oh, okay.
And and he just, he's holding court and just seeming like, like all the stories that you hear from Mick and you hear from Bruce Pritchard and all those type of things. Like, I was just in a fan zone where I didn't even want to engage in conversation, because I just wanted to step back and just watch him. Because it's amazing. He was like working, I was probably like in his 50s or 60s, when probably in the 60s or something like that, when I saw him.
Yeah, 2006
But
is the time he performed at the ECW One Night Stand, so I'm guessing that's the year.
yeah, yeah, that probably is it. So he's 79 when he passed away, and that was, yeah, I don't know, I can't do third grade math in my head, but
Me neither.
it was he's just a remarkable performer, and his influence on wrestling and fans and performers themselves. Um, not to mention all the the movies and Roadhouse and all those type of things. Just like truly great performer. Bray Wyatt, obviously, I worked with, from a behind the scenes standpoint. I didn't, I didn't really work with him in the Bray Wyatt phase outside of WrestleMania 32, that was really the special, you know, promo and time where I got to work with Bray/Wyndham. Because when I was on the road at WWE, he had been called up as part of like whatever the new Nexus
Oh
thing
yeah,
was.
yeah.
And that was when WWE had, I don't know, that was when they were going through their, I'll call it their horrible name phase.
Ah,
Where I don't know if it was Vince, somebody really was into corny alliteration at the time. We had Husky Harris and Michael McGillicuddy,
yeah.
and these other names that like seemed like something out of like a 1940s movie. Um, but I could tell, I worked with his dad, obviously, behind the scenes, Mike, legendary, wrestler. And he had been working as a backstage producer, for years when I was there. And I could tell, like, from Bray's standpoint, obviously Husky Harris wasn't something that he wanted to do, but at the same time, you get called up and you get like an opportunity to perform on television. You're really not in a position to say anything otherwise. So, he kind of like paid his dues, I guess.
Yeah.
But you could tell that there was a lot more going on in the in the brain than being part of a group. Yes, you're on television, and yes, you're getting exposure, and you're even working with top talent, but you're really not don't have much opportunity to show your personality and show what you're capable of. So it was really like post Nexus 2.0, Bray coming back, and him being Wyndham, putting in the work and the effort and the creativity to emerge as this brand new character, this hypnotic, mesmerizing character. I've always he's so, I don't know, I likened it to this. Like, imagine like 1920s basketball where they're all like throwing it through a peach basket and doing all those old timey moves and everything,
Yeah.
and then LeBron shows up. You're like, I can't even compartmentalize what this. Yes, we're technically playing the same sport, but this person is on a completely different level
Yes.
than anything we've ever witnessed before. And that was Bray Wyatt, because he, like, as a writer on the creative team, there were, and this happens to everybody, I think, on the creative team. Sometimes you get stuck in a funk where you're like, oh my God, this has been done before, and this has been done. Everything's been done before. How can we possibly do something new when, like, literally every story, every iteration of wrestling, yes, that's just like McMahon and Austin, or yes, that's just like Hogan versus Andre, or whatever. And here comes Bray doing stuff that had never been seen before, and it is all coming out of his brain. The promos, the first time you saw Firefly Funhouse, like, my brain was like, what is this? This is insane. This is hypnotic. When he's doing like the dance and the song and the Vince puppet and the match with Cena at the COVID WrestleMania and all that stuff, it was truly mind bending, and that all comes from Bray. That wasn't Bray sitting down. I know he worked with several members of the creative team and collaborated with them, but he was the driving force behind all of his stuff. Even when we worked together at WrestleMania 32 with The Rock, the way we wanted to, I know, talking to Rock, it was like, this guy Bray Wyatt, he doesn't have a match. This is the promo we should be doing. That's like basically what we discussed with each other. It's like equally. Rock wanted to work with him. I wanted Rock to work with him. And Bray obviously would, Wyndham would be more than happy to do a segment with The Rock. But even when we put that segment together, it was like, all right. And then Bray, you'll say your stuff. I'll just let you do it, because I'm certainly not writing anything for Bray Wyatt. It's like, here's the outline. Whatever you say, Rock will respond to. And there's not, that's sort of like it's not necessarily a given with a lot of performers. A lot of performers can, and do write their own promos. But Bray, from the start, from the incarnation of the Bray Wyatt character, it was all him, putting forth the character, the aura, the mood, the atmosphere. And he's just really, really remarkable. And it's so, and I guess as I'm rambling on here, the other thing I would add is that in putting that promo together, the one key in that promo that we wanted to do above everything else is Rock putting Bray over.
Yeah.
Because usually there's this dynamic where the heel comes out and maybe there's a line, a certain, lip service or whatever of like, yeah, you're a great athlete, but blah, 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 blah. And typically when with heel babyface, not, exclusive to Rock or anything like that. But it was like, no, in this particular case, we really, we have the spotlight on us. The world of wrestling is watching. This is a good opportunity for The Rock to really put over the dynamic personality, the magnetic presence, the fact that people, he's supposedly a heel and 101,000 people are holding up their cell phones. Like, I always thought, certainly at the time at WrestleMania 32, that Bray Wyatt character should transcend babyface heel. He's just this agent of chaos, and you could either like him or not like him. I didn't like that he was sometimes pigeonholed as, okay, but you got to be a heel because wrestling is baby faces and heels. Because I thought he was just an anomaly in the sense that he's just like transcends that and is much more than that. So we definitely took that opportunity for The Rock, and the fans responded too, by the way. The fans, as The Rock, if you go back and watch the promo, when The Rock's talking about how he's got the look, he's got the charisma, he's got, this magnetic power about him. And of course you can't teach this stuff, and I couldn't teach it, but like, Bray and Rock with the presence to, take that moment, take their time, acknowledge the crowd, they're popping, they're responding to it. There's not a what in the building during the time where lots of whats would happen, where Ray and Rock would go back and forth. Everyone was truly listening to hear what they would have to say. So yeah, that was really great to be able to work on that promo with those guys. And yeah, it's just a shocking, horrible loss. Not only from a wrestling standpoint, obviously that's the lower part of it, from the human being standpoint.
Yeah.
And William, being a father and a husband and son, and every tribute that you see, both for Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt, these are like genuine outpouring of emotion because of the human beings that they are, not because, oh well, this is what you do when someone passes away. Like, no, this is like truly universally beloved individuals, and it's really it's horrible. It's bad. I can't even really talk it through when you're talking about like a 36-year-old performer in the prime of his life, unexpectedly passing away. It's beyond tragic. But his legacy is going to continue pretty much forever.
Yeah. I agree with you when you mentioned kind of the heel and babyface situation of his character on television. The fact that his children and his wife no longer have him. I'm a father of 3, I have a wife. Like, I can't imagine in your brain not being there to help your family at any point in time, but especially now, you're going to be remembered as one of the greatest performers of all time, but also probably a great father and a great husband as well. I didn't know him like that, but the heel babyface thing you brought up is a really good point, because it seemed like everything is like going right for him, and then he fought John Cena at WrestleMania 30. And it was like, well, that was the year everyone thought like all these new stars were being built. They just got beat by all the already established people. And then it's like, yeah, but he beat John Cena at Extreme Rules the next month. Like, are you being serious? Are you comparing WrestleMania to Extreme Rules? Because they're not the same thing. And as time would go on, I think, like you brought up a really good point, is like Eddie Guerrero, people appreciated him when he was alive, but not as much as when he wasn't here anymore. And Bray Wyatt is going to be all his promos. People are going to study those things. The White Rabbit, him returning, the Firefly Funhouse, everything like that, because that, again, you brought it up, all from his brain, a little bit of help, but a lot of it is from him. And he killed it every time. I was a huge Bray Wyatt fan. I didn't want to say he's the next Undertaker, but people compared him because he had mystical powers. The lights would go out, boom, he'd appear. And he definitely brought something different to the wrestling world. And I love different because, I like your blue trunks and your blue boots and you come out and have a great match. But you know what I like more? A scary guy telling me to run, holding a lantern, blowing it out. Like, I like that.
Well, yeah. And when we talked about it before, the ascension or progression from WWE to film and television with Rock and Cena and Batista and several others have made inroads. But, in the back of my mind and back of probably lots and lots of people's minds, that was where you could easily see, Bray Windham ascending to, because he's such a good actor and such a good performer and has such great instincts and so genuine, because, this scary guy, this horror character is really ahead of his time. In a wrestling world, it's difficult in a wrestling world. It's not easy when, you're sitting in the rocking chair going back and forth and talking about, these cryptic promos, otherworldly type promos. But at the end of the day, your goal is supposedly pin someone's shoulders to the mat for a count of 3 and or get them to submit in order to win a championship.
Yes.
The motivation and the goals aren't necessarily, aligned in that particular case. And so it's a challenge sometimes to have them be aligned. It's like, yes, then what is, if you're not trying to be champion, then what are you doing? Well, Bray Wyatt is
Yes.
operating on a much different, plane than everyone else. I would have loved, to, like everyone, basically, yeah, I agree. Go back, treasure the materials that we do have, the legacy that he left as far as a performer. But you could see, all these outpouring of, the tributes that are coming. You could just tell, and even if whether you knew him or didn't know him, what a genuine human being he was, above being a performer. And he was a remarkable performer, even more valued and even more loved and treasured, as a human being.